welcome to See You Next Tuesday. Today we have Aaron with us. He has 15 years experience working within drugs and alcohol, so we thought we'd go for that topic this week. So Aaron, how did you get into your role?
So I started as a volunteer. There was like a little drug and alcohol service in Tunbridge, and so they used to just help people walking in through the door. People signed up to their service. And I just wanted to do that to, I guess, have an opportunity to maybe see if this is a career for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would answer the phone, sign people in through the door. But what I found is that just by being kind to people, that they would really be receptive to that. And so people started saying, "Oh, you're really good at this." And I was like, well, answering the phone and saying hello. And I think what happened eventually is that the staff there, the managers and stuff, said, like, maybe try for a job with us. Like, we think you're okay at this. And like, yeah, I got a job in like rehab. So in their rehab that they had, which was separate to the community place. And I think I just loved it, just helping people. And that's the main thing I found was being personable to people and not treating them like a number coming through the door, like a burden, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So immediately I was building rapport with people, not on the basis of like we're mutual, but more that I'm just being respectful and kind to them. Yeah. And I think, that made a difference, you know.
Sounds like you let them be heard.
Yeah, I think possibly in that way. I think a lot of the clients would say, like, I'm used to people like not looking at me respectfully and talking down to me, just seeing me as someone with an addiction, and that's all I am in that sense. Whereas I grew up with many people who had an addiction to something. It's completely normal. I understood these people's personalities other than their substance. So just looking at the substance was so naive, if that makes sense.
That's a major thing. Seeing these, you understood their personalities.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So that means that substance is something that someone does, but it can't define you.
It's not who you are.
It's not who you are, for sure, because if we said that, then anyone who's ever had anything negative happen with them, we would always just identify you as that. It's like if someone had a disability, would say, "Hi, John, you're in a wheelchair. Let's talk about that."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, that's not who that person is. That's just something that's happened to them.
Yeah.
And so, the people, I think if I had come from a judgmental perspective of people, then they're less likely to, or actually, I think some people didn't even have the rationale to understand that they were being judged, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think I had that rationale. So for me, it was just to always treat them as I would treat people I knew.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Because if you've been with people you knew, but also you, like you say, you look at people. You don't ever look at people with what they've got going on. You look at people for who they
are. Like, what are the things that what can they do? Substance aside, what can this person do, and how can we help them? If they're coming to you and saying, "I've got a problem with drugs or alcohol," then it means that they're seeking help.
Yeah.
And so then it defeats the kind of objective if we're then judgmental to them to pull that out in that sense, you know, when they're actually coming and asking for some help.
When we speak about drugs and alcohol, I feel like there's a bit of two extremes. There's either Friday night, I only do it on Friday, it's fine, I've got it all under control. Or people think, oh, drugs and alcohol, homeless. There's not sort of in between. And what sort of walks of life do you see coming in?
Oh, I've seen in general, I think we see people from, let's say, disadvantaged backgrounds. People come from a challenging home environment or they've experienced trauma, stress, those kind of things. So that's the general kind of number of people that we see. But then also there's like people who are more well off, let's say, who could have made better choices. So then you realise then that substance is not something just for the disadvantaged people. Because actually then, like I've treated judges, police, nurses, doctors,
so high pressure
people, who have, particularly after lockdown, we saw a lot of referrals from nurses. Many referrals from nurses at that time. Actually, that was like our rising increase of numbers. So, it's...
and maybe people that you say that in their job, they actually, it's not just pressure, they deal with on the front line a lot of like serious, life-altering sometimes circumstances.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're put under, like, the decision-making is, like, got to be immediate. So therefore, that must be some outlet you need to, like...
And a lot of the time they're working, like, really, really long hours. They've got no outlet to speak to someone about those things, if that makes sense. And say, look for a coping strategy, something to help me to sleep, to switch off. And so then when you see those kind of referrals, you say, well, it's understandable. I understand why you'd be doing this. If I was in that kind of high pressure job and feeling like I've got a lack of support at work or an outlet to speak and express things, if that makes sense. So, again, wouldn't judge people. Don't judge just because you come from high society, therefore you can't have treatment. Yeah. And so it was, okay, we just look. So what I always did is my job always, the way I worked was forget the substance. How can I help this person, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Beautiful thing.
Yeah, because people would come in and there was like a hierarchy of substances. So you have people saying, well, I just drink, I don't smoke. And then you have people going, I don't smoke, I don't inject. And you say, man, I snort, I don't, pipe or something.
Yeah. So they have judgment on themselves already in the hierarchy.
Yeah, you get that.
Right.
And then you also then get people go, like, I'm not like the others. So, I used to work in a service in Chatham, for instance, right? Chatham's a tough town. There's a lot of addiction. And our clients would congregate outside the services. They'd be using drugs out there, fighting, overdosing. Anything you think could happen would happen outside. And then we would have someone who was, let's say, a bit better off, who comes from a different walk of life, who's, let's say, more privileged. And they would be judgmental themselves coming in and saying, I'm not like those outside. And almost demand stuff from us. But I would be like, we're not focusing on the substance, actually. We're trying to treat you as a person. It just so happens that you have an alcohol issue or a drug issue that you need help with too. But what I want you to do is encourage you is to remove the hierarchy of your thought process. Yeah. So remove the hierarchy of saying, I'm not, because then what you do is you justify your use at your level. You justify it there, do you see what I mean? Whereas we're like, no, actually, let's remove all of that. And then you have an open playing field as to where you can progress in your treatment because you hold no judgment. And that's something that AA do as well. They talk about, having no resentments, and because that would be a resentment if you looked at someone else and said, they're worse off than me, or I'm not as bad as them, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's different ways in which you try to work with people just to get them to see things differently. That makes sense.
Yeah, because like straight off the bat there, you're complicit in their validation of the fact that they're not addicted, and why would they be there for it?
Exactly that, yeah. And we would say, like, you wouldn't, my thing to say to people, because people, even like me as a worker, I'd have people asking me constantly, well, what did you used to use? Yeah. Well, and I would say, well, it's not about me, it's just about you, right? And they'd say, yeah, but I need to trust you. And I used to say, no, I disagree. Because actually, if you broke your arm and you had to go to a doctor, you wouldn't ask the doctor if they broken their arm in order to fix yours. You just believe and trust that this guy's trained and he can do his job. And that's the same for us. So what we're saying is, forget the kind of thing towards us and asking us whether we used to use like as a constant thing, and just throwing it back to them. And in essence, to make them take self-responsibility, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because it's a complex subject.
What would class as an addiction? Is there like a sort of level, or?
Yeah, it generally comes down to scales of dependency. Okay. So whether or not someone can use and then leave it alone. So usually the test is whether or not they can leave it alone.
How long would you have to leave it alone for?
It depends. Let's say if you were someone who used every day, going one day without is very difficult. Yeah. So if they can go one day without, it's actually you've got a chance. You might have a chance here to not be an addict, so to speak. But then also, I think with a term like addict, it's that another thing of just keeps people, well, I'm an addict. So then I can justify all of my behaviour. Yeah. Because guess what? I'm an addict, or I've got addictive.
Or a diagnosis.
Yeah, or I'm an addictive personality. And I'd say, well, why don't you get addicted to good things then if you've got addictive personality? Yeah. If that's the case. So I used to dispute it.
You say the good things. I am the same. I know my personality, I know my traits, And I do. There are things in my life fundamentally that I eat coffees.
Yeah.
And like, if you used to say to me, go the next 7 days without them, I think,
that's your test.
Yeah.
That's your test that.
Because it is, I'm not saying coffee's not good for you or bad for you, whatever, but the point is, you have those things in place on a daily basis. I do as coping strategies, and they are very much coping strategies for me. And they may only come in the form of my addiction to mint straws of an evening when the kids are in bed with a cup of tea, or the coffee in the morning to get me all fired up and going.
Yeah.
But if you said to me, Wendy, that's it for this week, I'd think, shit, I would panic.
Yeah.
I would, but not panic in a bad way. I would just think, Christ, I'm going to actually have to apply myself here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be accountable for that, and I'm going to have to honour what he's asked me to do.
And that's the challenge.
And that is the challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
You know, but where I have come quite dependent on those markers to set my day, as it were, because you don't have the outlet from the pressures and what you've got going on in life. I actually, even as something as mundane as them, if you said to me, right, that's it for this week, I'd think, shit, I would actually probably have to really apply myself, and they're so pathetic. The things that you need in order to sustain that, you know what I mean, what your day looks like.
Yeah.
But I would struggle.
Yeah, that's the tough thing. So that's always like my measure. We have obviously like assessment tools which work out how much people are using, if they have any withdrawal symptoms. Like for people who drink, for sure, that's the sign of addiction, let's say, is dependency. Is when you cannot stop, and actually you become unwell if you stop, and some people die from that as well. So they have fits or seizures. It's really complex. Really, people are unhealthy and unwell at that stage. I think for people who use drugs, again, it's the determination is: can you go out? Can you go to that festival or to that rave and not have something when everyone else around you is probably doing it? Yeah. That's the tester. I think if you're able to go and think, actually, I'm all right today, then you're not as bad as some people who can't not do that, because some people will always use it in every situation, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's the difficult. Yes, it's very hard to measure. Even when we have people who drink and use drugs every day, they say, I'm not an addict. I just like doing it. Yeah. So I say, that's fine, then we'll treat you as that. But can you go a day without? Or can you have a day where you have a little bit and then leave the rest? That's another tester for people. Do you see what I mean?
I should imagine, for me, I would think, I might be naive, that alcohol's probably the worst because it's so accessible.
Yeah, it's the worst, but across the board. It's
so the one that's legal is the worst.
Yeah, it causes the biggest health problems, the most deaths every year on year. I haven't looked at the stats for this year, so forgive me, I might be wrong. But in general, alcohol is. I was thinking about this actually yesterday, whether or not is alcohol worse than heroin in terms of the impact on people's lives. Yeah. And so if you see a heroin addict who's kind of out in the street, rough sleeping, they graft all day, every day to use, like constantly. They will not stop until they've got everything they need for the day, in order so they're not unwell from withdrawal symptoms, which can be really horrible for some people, can impact things like psychosis as well for some individuals. So when I look about impacts on life, I think heroin's probably like a direct impact in that sense, the way it changes someone's whole life. Whereas I think when people drink and they then become dependent, it's a really isolating self thing, and they're just staying at home in general. You won't see dependent drinkers going out to the pub to socialise, if that makes sense. You might see the odd guy who sits in the corner, minds his own business, but he'll be there from morning till night drinking all day, taking more than 30 units. It's 14 for a week. Our clients are exceeding that on a daily basis. And so, I think in terms of social impact, heroin is probably the kind of really critical drug in that sense, and detrimental impact across the board. But for individuals and for health and for life, it's alcohol. Every single time, it's the biggest impact. And probably one of the most difficult substances to treat. Really? I would say alcohol, for sure. I think if you have a client who uses heroin or any other opiates, you can do psychosocial interventions. You can put them on a prescription of methadone or buprenorphine, and so in essence, we're substituting their illicit opiate for a legal opiate. Yeah. Still an addiction, but it's the safer one.
Yeah.
And so you can do that. So you've got measures to do that. For alcohol clients, you've got to motivate them to go to maybe a detox or a rehab, which is not a quick fix. You can't just walk in somewhere and say, can I have a detox? And they say yes. Although when I was managing, I used to want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because we want to capture people's motivation.
Yeah.
And so I would always be trying to bend things around and saying, look, this person's realistically, they've tried in the community for 10, 20 years and they're still drinking every day. So I think they need to go to rehab. And it's like, okay, we need to prepare them. And that's the difficult bit. Because someone who drinks for 15 hours a day and then wakes up the next day, they're not really motivated to come to an appointment. Come see my ugly mug. And I'm saying, let's all get motivated and try and treat you and get you well. They couldn't care less. And so it's really difficult then in that sense to motivate people who drink to make a change that's going to save their life. Because that's the bottom line of it. Yeah. They're going to die otherwise.
Can I ask a question? Do they have to come themselves to seek the help?
They can refer themselves. Yeah, they can be referred by family. They can be referred by other professionals. Generally, when you get referred by family, it's the family wanting it.
Yeah.
And so we used to do a lot of work with families as well. So we had a separate service, which was just a family. It's like treatment for them in that way. So sometimes we would give them advice, and they, it might be giving advice to a mum about her son, and a mum saying like, he's drinking every day, he's stealing money from me, he's not working, he's doing all these kind of detrimental things. I want him out. And I would say, that's your choice then, kick him out. And they say, but I can't kick him out, he's my son. And I'd say, but if it's having a negative impact on your home and your life in that sense, you have a choice. Otherwise, stay and support him then.
If fundamentally, he also has the choice.
Yeah, he has the choice.
I think that's a great subject, because for anybody who is in any situation, they're only ever one decision away from a totally different outcome. They've just got to make that choice, haven't they?
Yeah.
And like you say,
choice is huge. See, choice, that's my number one almost key working technique with people, is to bring it back to choice. Because I've worked with so many people over the years who would say, I've got no choice in this for whatever reason. Like, I'm always going to be an addict to one thing or another.
Yeah.
And I would say I dispute that. Because they would say, yeah, but I grew up around it, and my mum did it, my dad did it, and my uncles did it, and I've been to prison, and they'll give all these different, and I go, there's lots of people who grew up in those environments but didn't go on to use. And so you have to then, I think, work out from that it can't be the thing, if that makes sense. Yes, we understand contributing factors of trauma, stress, life incidents. We get that. Actually, I think if it's alcohol we're trying to deal with, it's a physical action. No one's holding anybody down or pouring alcohol every day saying you must keep drinking. And so therefore it's a choice. It's a hand to mouth movement. So I think we can stop that, right? Because otherwise then we would just, like, I don't know if I should use this analogy, but I used to punch people in the face once upon a time. And so what I say things like, well, I used to do that. And then I guess it's easy then to say, well, I'll just keep on doing that because it's what I know.
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm angry,
so I can just keep on doing it. Every time I get frustrated, well, I'll just do what I used to do. Because that's all right then. That's my thing, right? So no, actually it becomes, then it's a choice. I can choose to react to something, or I can choose to
find another
way, if that makes sense. Yeah. Rather than say, well, I have no choice. Because then we almost then play like a victim role, if that makes sense.
Not accountable.
Not accountable, no responsibility here. This is destined to happen to me.
Yeah.
But then we say, well, no one can change their life pathway. No one can change what they want to do because, well, I've got all these things that affect me. I disagree. So I've had many arguments with clients over the years. I don't want to say arguments, I would say debates. Let me say debates. I've had many debates with clients over the years around that choice question. When I say to them, I think you've got a choice here. I haven't got a choice. And I'd say, well, yeah, you came here to this appointment today. I didn't see any police handcuffing you through the door. I saw you walk here voluntarily. I called you beforehand and said, you come to your appointment today. You said yes, and now you're here. That was all your choice. And so therefore, there's
you literally have to strip it back to
I always do that. Give them the perspective and see the whole picture, rather than just, I have no choice, I have no choice, I have no choice. I think you absolutely have a choice. And again, people say, yeah, but my dad had it and it's inherent and it's in my DNA. And I understand those things, traits that can be picked up through life. I don't think there's any proven scientific thing across the board that you become an addict because someone else had it in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Some people come from, like, they're the only kid in the family. And so I never grew up around addiction, but still went on to use. Explain that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with it. I just disagree. I just think it comes down to choice. And I'll not let people come to my sessions and tell me they've got no choice, because otherwise I'm, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing in that sense? Yeah, why are we here then if you think you've got no choice?
So someone who's like listening and thinking like, well, I feel like I've got an issue, what sort of advice would you give them to make a choice to go and see someone?
Yeah.
What's sort of around these people that are thinking?
There are drug and alcohol services in every area of the country. In general, you're better off just going on Google and just Googling local drug and alcohol service. All services in general are integrated services. Once upon a time, you'd have an alcohol service separate, then a drug service over here. Then you'd have a prescribing service over there. So they're all kind of really separate. Whereas now they're all integrated. So commissioners, like local councils, will commission a service to take on a contract in that area for like 3 years or 5 years. And then it's their job to deliver the treatment in that area in that sense. So yeah, I think sometimes it might be going online and finding a local service, going along and not necessarily committing to treatment, but getting an idea of what this service does and can it help you, if that makes sense. I think that's important to go and find out what they do. Equally, speak to your doctor. Your doctor, in essence, any person registered to a GP, your GP is your primary care. Mm-hmm. And so they have responsibility for your health and your mental health in the community before anybody else. And so go and speak to your GP and tell them what you're going through. Sometimes you can speak to your employer as well if you think they're understanding and supportive and they've got your well-being in mind.
There's many people who have duty of care.
Lots of people have duty of care, and employers want people to be able to do their job in the best way possible with support. And if people are struggling with addictions at home, they're probably not giving their best to their job, if that makes sense. And so, if you've got an understanding boss or company, you think they can help, then maybe speak to them, because they might be able to give you some time off to go and get that support and treatment that you might need. Also, I think just speaking to someone at one of those services can tell you whether or not what you think is a big problem for you might not be a big problem. And treated so many people who felt that because either a partner or someone else around them was telling them, your glass of wine that you have every couple of nights is a problem. But they would come in and we would do the assessment and look at the actual facts of what they're doing. Actually, it's quite safe. It's within the government guidelines, the safe recommended limits for like weekly units that someone can take.
You just live with the gaslighting now,
you're not impacting mental health. So it's all good in that sense.
I know, I'm just thinking that I'm so aggressive and I've only ever been told that, but I'm not bad. I've spoke my mind still.
And it is, and so a lot of people will come in on the basis of someone else asking them to come in. And you're like, why are you here? I always bring it back to that again, choice. Why are you here? You came. I don't care about anyone else. You're here. But I think, sometimes you can help people to realise that actually what they're doing is not as harmful as they thought it was.
That's great to know that side of your service.
They do
I would never have known that.
It's called we call that like a brief intervention.
Lovely.
So you might see them for one session and then you might see them for like a couple of follow-up sessions. So they've still got something. And then if after those few sessions, they feel like actually I want to stay and do a bit more exploration of myself, or get some more coping strategies, then they can go into structured treatment.
So you're able to catch those people maybe before that becomes an event of taking them all the way down that slippery slope. That's fantastic.
I set a service up before in Medway, which was just for professionals. It was a very specific service for professionals who were using substances. So we didn't do any kind of significant substances whereby they need a clinician to assess them and then maybe prescribe something. So it was like levels. So it was almost like just before it reaches the critical, more problematic level. So we would go out and capture people coming off the trains from London. these guys were going to work, but always coming back and having little, the little shots, the little bottles, the little miniatures, things like that, or a few ciders here and there. And again, they didn't want to keep doing that, but it became routine. So we would intervene and help them before it got to a stage whereby they had to come into proper treatment, so to speak. And we would run 6 sessions of an evening, every week, for instance, for 6 weeks, and roll a program round for the next lot of cohort people. And so, that was really successful actually at that time, because it meant for those professional people as well who might have had judgments on coming into treatment or how it looks on them, they could come in the evening after work to a service that no one really knew about. It was specifically for them. It gave them an opportunity. But we go out. Sometimes we might even go and see people and run like a group for people who are low level using. And give them enough information about their substance use and tips and coping strategies and relapse prevention tools that they could go away and they didn't need to come back to us because they got enough from it, if that makes sense. So there's
the proactivity there is amazing. I actually didn't realise that was a thing. I have to be honest. How do you find your job? What do you take from your job? I mean, what you do for people, in some cases must really give people their lives back.
Yeah, and I've had a few of those cases where I've worked with people where they have dramatically changed their life in that sense. Or gone back to what they used to be like before addiction setting, if that makes sense. So that's like a really rewarding part of the job. And then again, also I think it's quite grandiose of us when we go, see, we did that. We helped change that person's life. Whereas I always want to separate us from that. So we do stuff, of course. We write your assessment, we write your notes, we see you, we use techniques like motivational interviewing or CBT to help people. But that's my job. That's what I'm paid to do, right? And so if you get, if somebody who's using then stops using, I don't want that praise because I didn't do that.
No, you facilitate.
So like I always, when people come in and they give you gifts sometimes like flowers or chocolate for like a thank you for the help, right? I would say that no, it's like we accept it, we have to share it with the team and things like that. But you did the work, praise yourself. So again, bringing it back to, because I would then bring back to the choice again. And say, do you remember when you first came in and it was a bit difficult and you were struggling to work out what you wanted, or how you were going to progress your treatment? But we just gave you some information on that, but we didn't drive the car. We gave you directions, but we didn't drive the car. I can't get paid for that. I'm not your Uber here. Do you know what I mean?
I think, and I do. I see the way you say you facilitate and the work comes from them. But I think sometimes in life, you have to accept that it will be something fundamentally to do with you, to do with your energy, to do with the way that you kind of express yourself. You understand me? Some people, they need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They need the right thing. The right thing. And it could be anything. It could be your choice of words, could be your application of self, could be your energy, could be where you come from because of what you've walked in your own life. That is the catalyst to be able to facilitate that for them. So I can see.
You've got a point. No, you've got a huge point.
I was just about to say, do you take many compliments?
No, not really. But on the flip side, though, is I've seen really bad key workers. So that's my example. So I've seen people who come in for an assessment who might be the first time they've ever spoke about their addiction and they're opening up to a stranger. Right? And I've seen that key worker when I'm doing observations for like supervision. And I've seen them kind of just like their body language is not open, it's not susceptible to this is a welcoming environment. And the key worker might have seen 5 or 10 people that day already, and the same story they've heard a million times. So they're just sitting there and then the person might want to elaborate on something, and they're like, no, I've got enough, carry on. And so that person walks away feeling like something was just quite missing there in terms of the interaction.
Yeah.
Whereas my favourite workers were the ones who almost didn't even need pen or paper or a computer to write notes. That they would just be able to be personable and know when to let the person speak, know when to move it on. It's a real skill to have, I think, in that sense.
Being really present in the
Being present. And again, the number one thing, being kind. I always said to all my staff, if that's your family member there, on the other side, how would you want them to be treated coming in for a treatment? Think about all the different dynamics, the fear, the stigma, the judgment, never told anyone these things before, all of the complex things in people's past. There's really direct questions that are asked in assessment. We ask about drug abuse, injecting, sexual health, past traumas, post-traumatic stress, risk assessment stuff, prison, fighting, violence, everything you can imagine we ask about. And so how are you going to get those real honest responses from people if you're not personable, if that makes sense? And so that would always frustrate me when I see that. And so some of the work I would do is getting my team to work in a way that they were always personable. I don't care how many phone calls you had to make today, how many incidents happened in the service, how many people phoned up and was abusive to us on the phone. Every time we see the next person, with smiles on and we're doing our job. And if we're not, I'm going to ask you to step away from that job. Because it's as simple as that. Again, don't do this kind of work if you cannot tolerate people. And if you can't work with people, you can't motivate them, and you can't always put your own shit aside. That's the bottom line of it. Because you have people going, well, I've had a bad day today, I didn't sleep very well last night. Then don't come to work, go sick, I'll cover you. As simple as that. I'd rather not have you here. I used to have a receptionist who used to take her shoes off, put her feet up on the desk, eat in fucking Kentucky. And you had a waiting room full of people. I was aghast, I couldn't believe it. And everyone thought it was the norm. Everyone thought it was normal. And then that's why I'd pull them up and I'd say, no. If you need lunch cover, we have that on the rota. So we will deal with that in the morning. I won't even accept anyone eating a packet of crisps down here, if that makes sense. People are coming in to try and save their life, and you got your shoes off eating Kentucky on the desk. It's not the right environment. And so I would always consistently challenge those kind of behaviours, let's say, of people. It's horrible. It's a complex place to work.
Can we talk about cocaine?
Yes.
Because I feel that everywhere you go,
it's cocaine.
Cocaine and cannabis, the two things that people sort of dull down because it's not heroin. Cannabis as well, that especially with youngsters that I've worked with, is a real thing. I'm not even going to go on to spice, but cocaine and cannabis. What do you see happening? What do you see behind it all?
Sometimes mental health.
So
people are using to manage their own mental health. Sometimes it's what they've seen around them. So I think if we go back through the history of cocaine in this country, for instance, like growing up, it was considered like a rich man's drug.
High class,
that high class drug that was in these penthouse parties over Mayfair and Westminster and all these kind of fancy gaffs. And you had to have money to live that life. And also then if you would, it was like, then it would be linked into like sex parties and all that kind of different stuff. So it's a different kind of drug. People where I came from, they used cocaine, but they also used speed was more. That was called like a poor man's cocaine, right? And so you have people who could only get that level. But then with mass, people don't realise people like Pablo Escobar. What they did is they made the market affordable for people because they sent so much product across the world. And so with high amount of product means that people could then, sell it for cheaper. And so you have different, I would say you have your dependent cocaine users who use every day. And so that's when it's a real massive problem for you. Then you've got your occasional cocaine users who want to have a little party sometimes, but then they can generally leave it alone. They can have a few days if they don't like the feeling of feeling rough for a few days, so then they leave it and they don't go back to it. And then sometimes that can then trigger other substance use because then the people don't sleep because of cocaine, it's a stimulant.
Right.
So then they might smoke some cannabis to help them sleep. That might not be working, so they might try something a bit more stronger than that, like another sedative or depressant. So, and then invariably in some cases it will lead to heroin because there's no better kind of counteracting drug to settle your heart rate down after stimulant use than heroin and opiates. And so that's why you get a lot of cocaine and heroin misuse combined, or polydrug use or dual substance use in that sense. And so then sometimes then people will progress to rock form of cocaine, which is crack cocaine, where they wash it up and make it into crystallized form. And so then
is that purer?
Not necessarily pure, no. It means that they've solidified it so they can smoke it. In that sense, and also inject it. People inject it. Yeah. So then that's the other verse. Then they break it down with the citric and put it in a syringe and all that kind of stuff.
Like getting a drugs lesson.
Yeah, let's do some harm reduction. Don't inject people. Don't do it. So yeah, they are again. They're difficult substances to treat. Again, cocaine is difficult to treat because you can do all the motivational work with someone. But then when they finish work and go down the pub with their pals, who's there to help them?
It's so normalised.
It's so normalised. People finish work. Again, it's a big thing in those working communities, like grafter communities, builders, labourers. It's like a reward. I've worked hard all week, and now I'm going to go and give some of that money to this random guy in the pub who's making thousands and thousands of
years ago, you went off clubbing on that stuff and had a good time. They stand in the pub now and just stand there drinking.
It's unsociable.
Shooing someone.
Or some, because again, there's different effects of cocaine. Some people, become really talkative,
some
really hyperactive. Some become mute. Some people, it levels them out. There are people who we've worked out sometimes have like ADHD or autism.
Yes.
So there's an imbalance with people's brains, right? And cocaine settles it. So I would ask them, and some kind of like...
We're not facilitating cocaine.
We're not. But I would ask them, like, friends, like people when they use it, their jaw goes... They can't... You want to eat food, if that makes sense. You have no appetite for food. And so then sometimes people say, I can eat food when I sniff. And I'm teach me then. Like, not teach me, but tell me so we can learn from that. Then they would just talk about it leveling them out. And again, it's that thing of people come from so much past trauma, mental health, all these other kind of things around you. Who are we to say that they can't cope and manage their life in that way? It's just because it's illegal. And so we say it's illegal, so therefore it's not a good thing. But actually, some of these things have benefits for people. Whether it's a benefit we agree with or not.
So it's not all negative.
It can't always be negative. And I think even if someone uses heroin every day and they're flat out, they're getting something from it, if that makes sense. This is given it might be not what we see as desirable for that person or desirable for ourselves. But it's giving them something.
It's feeding a need in them.
It's feeding a need. And so I think being judgmental or just going looking down on people for what they do is actually, well, let's look at the bigger picture of society. It's never a fair level playing field for everybody. And it never has been.
No.
So people will find a way to navigate this really difficult life that we live. And they'll do it by any means possible for themselves. It's not for us to judge. But if you come to us for help, we're here to help.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I've got this is completely off track. So psychedelics in terms of magic mushrooms. Do you see a lot of people coming in?
Very rare. So again, that's not, I have had clients who use them constantly. If that makes sense. It's a real negative impact on their mental health sometimes. But they're not substances that people generally do regularly. It could be something as part of an environment or some kind of different kind of holistic festivals kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereby people are getting in touch with themselves. You know what? Again, these things have been around for thousands of years. People have always used psychedelics in that way. And again, sometimes it would be to contact the spirit world or to enhance, open up that pathway. So again, who's to judge? We see probably more that what's coming more is things like ketamine. Like GBL, those kind of things.
What is GBL?
So it's, I can't remember the name, but it's like a popper, it's like a liquid. You can get tablet form as well. It's kind of form of ecstasy, methamphetamine.
Ecstasy.
They're all being tableted.
Well, like LSD and ecstasy, when I used to be out clubbing and when I was younger, they were all the drugs of choice. You know, the old jumblies, that's a good
microdosing is a big thing now as well, because I know a lot of, I've seen in my spiritualist network, a lot of people are microdosing for different reasons, to just take the edge of life but not have a high. So that's what made me ask about psychedelics.
Psilocybin's used quite a lot, isn't it? Microdosing to open up pathways to do inner work, but also I think, like you said, a lot of people find it easier to. A lot of people have had really good results with therapy with microdosing, haven't they?
I do facilitation, but that's not micro.
Yeah, some of these things like now, like they used to be prescribed once upon a time. So some of the illicit drugs that are almost classed as a class B or A or C drug, once upon a time they used to prescribe as part of holistic treatment for people who are experiencing mental health issues. They used. Again, then they make it illegal because some clever scientist changes some formulation, and it's no longer the safe thing anymore, and it's now this negative thing. But I think things like ketamine and those kind of stimulant drugs are kind of like a bit of an increase. Less alcohol for the younger people, more kind of stimulant things, if that makes sense.
Because ketamine, that's tranquilizer?
Yeah, so things like a horse tranquilizer. Yeah.
What? Because I don't get this. So for me, if I think, I'm going to take a tranquilizer tonight, I'm going to be KO'd, surely.
And that's what sometimes people want to get to.
Okay.
So there's something, I think there's a thing, I'm not too versed on, because it's not new, but it's a new emerging trend.
Yeah.
And I think some of the young people are, again, they're getting misinformation about what it is, and what ketamine is and what it will do. But some people are using so much that they're forgetting days and days at a time, for instance.
Wow.
I had one client once upon a time who attempted to cut his own arm off after using ketamine for a whole weekend. And so that was, I had to sit with that kid who was, I think, 18 or 19 at the time, with his mum, and he'd just been in hospital for 6 weeks of literally trying to saw his own arm off. And that could, again, it's hard to do something to yourself where you're going to hurt yourself, if that makes sense. Our natural instinct is to be like, I can't. But to saw your arm, you have to be in another place mentally and physically to be able to do that. And again, he couldn't remember he wanted to do this, but literally nearly severed his own arm.
It's related. There's a lot of bladder issues, isn't it? Is that one?
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, so basically, it's something called, I think they call it a ketamine bladder. So people get to a point where your bladder is no longer functioning. So I work with many clients who now have a colostomy bag, like the bag. So have that for life.
And I've continued to use, knowing that the repercussions.
Sometimes, they've continued to use. I've had others who, have problems going to the toilet. They can't really leave their house because they have no feeling, for instance. So in terms of the health complications, one of the worst, for sure.
Definitely.
If you're going to lose control of your bladder, which is something that we kind of pride ourselves on having control of, and we're going to use a substance. So that's why, again, I break things down. I say, okay, if you use this is what can happen to you. We're not trying to scare you. That's a fact. That's a fact if you do that. There's many young people, and again, you can Google their stories and go and see people who have lost their bladders due to using ketamine. And sometimes it's not long use. It's a couple of years for some of those people for that to happen. So, it's a massive
Do you
problem.
find that that kind of approach works rather than do you find that you get different, you have to work, like, I suppose individually, do you find that some people can't deal with the truths like that, or do you find that, do you know where I'm coming from? I'm not saying, I know they're addicts, but some people just, like, they just need a different emotional approach. So just wondering for you.
We definitely individualised. So every person I see them as an individual person. Sometimes some of the ideas or support we give is kind of general and kind of a bit the same. But I think like me personally, I never let people get away with just saying stuff that justifies a behaviour or an action. Like, I'm all over it. I'm a nuisance for that, actually.
I love that.
And the reason why I do that is, I think if we're not honest to you as your treatment service, then who's going to be really honest with you in life? Do you see what I mean? Because sometimes families are not going to be that honest. Friends are not. Partners are not. Your doctor might not even be that honest, for instance. But if you come into us and you're reporting that this is your level of substance use, we're going to be honest and factual about that. And tell you exactly what we think in the nicest possible way. So I always say to clients, I'm going to say this in the nicest possible way. I always say that. It's just like setting them up to let them know you're going to get challenged.
You're just about to get a truth bomb.
You're about to get a truth bomb in it. And so that's my way of doing it, is to really, I think, just be really direct with people, always personable, always respectful, always kind, but still we're going to have this conversation that says, what you've just said is actually to challenge that. And I'm going to do that. And that's tough sometimes, because I've worked with some people who, even just the wrong look, they might want to kill me over the table, you know? I've had that a lot, to be honest. So they're different. So again, do I swallow my challenge on those moments, or am I brave? Sometimes we've got to be brave as workers. We've got to say it how it is. And sometimes it's saying it how it is in front of their significant other. Or the other person who's not going to be too happy that you've told their partner that they're dependent. Or something like that. So,
it's authenticity leads the way.
I think so. And really being honest with people and trying to help them as best you can in that way, you know?
Well, you've got to set the precedence, I suppose, what you're expecting from them. Because they can't be honest with themselves. And exactly where they're going to get.
We're asking them to go away from our sessions and take responsibility for their substance, responsibility for their life, responsibility for the impacts on those around you. I can't really dress that up and make that really nice.
That starts to be that
has to come from that person. So my analogy for people was always, let's say if recovery and getting well is this 100%, right? Us as workers, I think we give you 5% of that 100. That's about it, the maximum. So if you put 50% in, you've only got 55% when you leave the service. But so when I ask people, if you can invest 95, it deals with the rest, if that makes sense. It means that everything comes together for you. But you can't scrimp on that because you only get 5% from us. So you put 80% in, you get 85% from this service. And so in essence, what we're trying to do is encourage people to take 100% responsibility for themselves. And we just do a little bit of paperwork bit and a motivational bit and get you through. But I don't think it's that complex for us. That's my job. It's what we're paid to do. It's getting people to see that to get to recovery, to get to where you need to be, you need 100% of all these different things. But if you only invest so much, this is the only investment you get out of it. It's as simple as that. It's the thing I try to do.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any other nuggets of information you want to add?
Do you know what? I think if people can always understand where they come from and who they really are, if that makes sense, then it really, because a lot of people don't know who they are in this society, and that's a real problem for us. There's a lot of people sort of aimlessly going through life, not having any goals, any motivations, kind of just lost. There's a lot of lost people. And so I always say, like, try and go back to your core, like, away from all the substances, away from the parties, the street life. Have a think back to what's your core, like, what did you really want to do growing up? Because it's never too late. Like, I think if we're like, I'm not going to be an astronaut now, right? And I don't think I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm not going to be a footballer anymore. I've got bad hips. But I can do other things that I wouldn't have maybe done before if I was living a certain negative past life. So for me, it's about, having that self-exploration to know sort of where you come from. Because a lot of people will tell people, don't look back, move forward in life. I think you have to keep looking back. Because I have to keep an eye on the stuff that catches up on you. So like, don't not look back, keep looking back, and try and bring that person from behind who you was before, bring them up to date, up to date to where you want to be, and then and think about the people around you. That's a big thing, I think. People around you, are they really honest with you? Do you know you've took millions of liberties and got away with it? Now it's time to start readdressing that or addressing that and making yourself like a kind person for those around you. Do you see what I mean? Because otherwise you've got people just doing stuff constantly, not being challenged, and that goes into other dynamics of life whereby things there's a lot of the agenda at the moment is like misogyny, right? Men saying and doing what they want. They've always done this shit. And so a lot of the time, and again, a lot of the time it's the people around them have not challenged it.
I completely agree with that.
So they haven't challenged it. I'm winning too.
Yes.
No. And it's like, actually, sometimes say your truth. As much as it's difficult, say your honesty, say your truth. Challenge that person. You might not make an impact, but they're going to know that you challenged them. And then the next person in line will challenge them. What happens then is all of those kind of negative people, those abusers, they have to start slinking away. Because their upfront behaviour ain't upfront anymore. Because we all seen it and we called it out. And we're not tolerating it anymore. And that's the same with like addictions around you. If you don't like it around you, move that person away. Or take yourself out of the scenario. But really, I think, be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with those around you. And don't let that negative stuff just continue to thrive around you. Do you see what I mean? Because that's when bad shit happens, basically. So that's my stuff.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I've got a funny feeling I want to see you again soon.
No, I don't like this stuff.
I know you've got a few more gifts to give.
Definitely. And I have got to say, I can completely and utterly 100% see why people say thank you to you.
Really? You're too kind. I paid for this one.
I don't know.
Stop. Thank you.
There are certain people in life that are the catalysts for other people being able to do better. And I'm going to tell you to your face, you're one of those people.
That's very nice. I didn't really.
We'll work on that.
Is what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next Tuesday.